Hello there, Caleb from thebookflipper.com. We're going to go through a little bit of a presentation for those that are still in school. This might be right up your alley. If you haven't been in school in a while, I apologize. We're going to jump back in with some PowerPoints. But the question we're going to attempt to answer today is, does sales rank matter? And I'm going to be coming at it from the perspective of books, although these principles do apply to any products that are sold on Amazon. And again, since we're talking about a PowerPoint presentation, if you want to have a little bit more of an intellectual sounding discussion, we can call it this: an in-depth analysis on the origins and meaning of Amazon sales rank for multi-paged items, i.e. books. So without further ado, let's jump in. First off, why does this even matter? And the question we're going to attempt to answer is, which books should I buy just by looking at rank alone? So you can see here we've got a book on the left selling, the current rank's about 800,000. It's got offers in the $10 range, and prime offers are much higher than that, as is typically the case in around the $25 range. Over on the right, we have a book that's close to 3 million sales rank, also selling for about $10 used, with, again, prime offers much higher than that. So the question is, which ones should you buy? And before we can really answer that question, we need to dive into an analysis of what is sales rank. So here's an example of a book. This is just from a couple weeks ago at about 6:31 in the evening. We can see the bestsellers rank, or the rank for this particular book, is 1.4 million. And if we come back to this just a couple hours later, so we go from 6:30 p.m. to about 9:30 p.m., we can see the rank has shot all the way down to about 160,000. So that's quite a dramatic drop. For those that were scanning it, if you happen to scan this book at 6 o'clock p.m. using live data, you'd see a rank of about 1.4 million and you may pass, versus a couple hours later you scan the exact same book. The offers on the table are going to be virtually identical, but the rank now makes it seem like this is very promising. So what on earth is sales rank? Well, an easy definition is how long it's been since an item last sold. And I'm going to put one little clarifier on this, and that is ish. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Amazon doesn't give us all the exact rules as far as what applies to sales rank, but they do tell us that it's updated hourly, and the idea is that it's a measure of the book's popularity. But we can actually kind of reverse engineer some charts to actually kind of back into what sales rank is. So many of you are familiar with CamelCamelCamel.com or Keepa.com. These are sites that track the prices and, more importantly, the sales ranks of items over time. Now, the data is crowdsourced, so they don't have every single book in there, but when you go there and look for a book, or you use your scouting app and click through to CamelCamelCamel and it's not there, they will then add it to the database. And some of them say they update. I think Keepa updates a little more often than Camel, from what I've seen, just from my experience. That may not be true. But they basically go in and query the sales ranks over time. So what we're looking at here is you've got a date range of about 3 months. So we're looking at June through roughly the end of September. And what you can do is you can just follow this over time, and this is the rank. Now, for those that use Keepa, Camel is upside down compared to the standard view of Keepa, so you just have to understand what you're looking at. But what it is rank is over here on the left, so we got 0 all the way down here, and again, 1 is the best rank you can have, and for books it goes up to about 16 or 17 million is the highest rank that I've seen on a book. So a rank here of about 2.5 million means it hasn't sold in X amount of time. When the book sells, you can see it jumps suddenly, or drops. In this case, it dropped to about 500,000. Now, based on my own experience, I know that most books drop to about 100 or 200,000 when they sell a copy. So the reason this didn't go all the way down is that Camel was not actually pinging it daily or hourly and missed the very height when it was probably at about 150,000, give or take. What we can see here is the book sold, it dropped down, let's call it 150,000. Over time, it doesn't sell again, so the rank drifts, and then drops back again. So here's another sale that's registered. Now, it's important to note that we don't know which copy sold. It could be a used copy, could be a new copy, it could be a copy directly from Amazon. All we know is that one person bought at least one copy. If an individual buys 5 copies from a single seller, it actually would give it the exact same rank drop here. It would just register as one sale. So it's not perfect information, but it is very helpful. So another way to look at this chart in a more useful way would be to say, in the last 3 months, how many times has this book sold? And we can do that. We see the drop here that we already talked about. There's one sale. There's a second drop. That'd be a second sale. There's a third sale, a fourth sale. Now you'll see a drop here, but then the chart kind of corrects. And if you'll just kind of connect this line, my hunch is this is just an anomaly. The software pulled some wrong information. I'm not going to count that as a sale. You could if you wanted, but we're looking at 4, maybe 5 sales in the last 3 months, or roughly 1 sale per month. So that's a much more accurate way to look at this book. Now that's not great volume. It's decent, especially if it's a $20 or $30 book. If it's a $6 book, it may not be worth your time to actually list it, prep it, send it in, etc. So that's one way to look at it. Another thing we can use this chart to look at is say, how long does it take to go from sale back to, let's say, 1 million sales rank? So I hear a lot of people say, don't sell books under 1 million rank. And that could fit your strategy, or maybe they're just saying it to steer you down the wrong path. I'm not sure. What we want to do is say, what does 1 million rank actually represent? And in this case, we can see that basically about 5 days from when the sale was registered, so roughly July 1 to somewhere in the July 6 range, about 5 days went by and the rank got back to 1 million. What's interesting is this exact same line. So I didn't adjust the line at all. We just actually extended over here. And the time from sale to about 1 million again is roughly the same 5 days. And we see that pattern pop up in every single case. So for the last month or two, based on this information, if a book is selling 1 copy and then doesn't sell for several weeks, we can see that it reaches 1 million rank in roughly 5 days. Well, what about getting to roughly 2 million? Now, again, the chart doesn't quite get there, so we're going to have to take a few estimates here, but it's roughly 17 days or close to 2.5 weeks to get to 2 million rank. And again, if we use that same line, the same length, we see that applies roughly the same all the way throughout. So what we can do is put this in a chart and come up with rough estimates. So a rank of 100,000 means it sold an hour ago. It just recently sold. Again, that rank could vary between 100 to 200,000. 500,000 or 500,000, it sold 2 to 3 days ago. 1 million, it simply sold roughly 5 days ago. 2 million, give or take 2 weeks ago. A 3 million rank, if we look at other charts, historically gives us about a month. So it hasn't sold in a month. A 4 million rank means it's been about a month and a half, and so on and so forth. Now, again, this does vary based on books, and we'll give you some examples here in a second. One thing I do want to mention is if the rank is under 100,000, that means that it has sold more than 1 copy in the last hour, typically. Okay, so if a rank is 50,000, that means instead of selling the 1 copy it sold an hour ago, it probably sold 2, 3, 4 copies. Again, we don't know what a rank of 1,000 means versus a rank of 75,000, but 1,000 is selling many more copies than a 75,000, for example. So again, this is just very helpful. This is going to help us understand what we mean by long tail and help us understand and make some better buying decisions up front. So again, under 100,000, I get excited. Between 100,000 and 1 million, honestly, there's not that much difference. One sold an hour ago, one sold 5 days ago. The real question is which one is more likely to sell again? And the only way to do that is to look at a history and judge the past performance of that particular book. Again, there's a couple tracking websites we talked about. We're using CamelCamelCamel here. I really like Keepa. It's got very nice extensions for Google Chrome. You can see the data right when you're pricing, when you're analyzing books. You can make much better decisions by using either of these websites. So again, I want to walk through just a few, and again, I'm going to try and look at roughly 3-month time ranges on these unless it doesn't give us good data. So here's a 3-month range. Again, every time the rank drops or spikes, anytime we see kind of a heart rate in this chart, that's a sale. So I'm looking at probably 20 to 30 sales, give or take, and it looks like it's selling fairly consistently over the last several months. This will be a book I'd refer to as a steady Eddy. It's historically sold well. It's likely to keep selling well, probably to the tune of 1 or 2 copies a week based on what I'm seeing. Again, once a book gets under 100,000, so we can see the 100,000 rank over on the side here, it's only been worse than that once or twice in the last 3 months. Again, we're looking at a 3-month time range. We'll call it the best seller or a great seller. Again, you can see the rank typically hovers around the 40, dropping sometimes as low as about 10 or 15,000 sales rank. So this book is likely selling several copies a day, if not several copies an hour. And that is a book that if you were to pick up, you could realistically expect to sell it very quickly, assuming you priced it accurately. We're going to zoom out to a year just to show you the textbook phenomenon. So what you'll see here is the book is selling very well. Again, we got a very good heart rate going on if you want to use that analogy. The worst it's ever been ranked was sometime in the middle to late November when it dropped to about 350,000. And we can see here where the chart actually pings or hugs the bottom of the line, the top of the line here, which represents a rank of closer to 0. We can see the best rank was about 500, which is phenomenal, well under 1,000. And we can see that correlates with the spring textbook season, roughly January, February. And then the rank gets a little bit less popular, but again, only around 80 to 100,000. It's still a very popular book, selling consistently in the off season. But then again, we see a little bit of a rush here in the early part of the summer, which would indicate probably a summer semester or summer class. And then it gets really good again as we get into the August, September timeframe. So this is a very typical textbook pattern. We see great sales in the fall semester, great sales in the spring semester, and it's less great in the off season, although this particular copy is still selling likely on a daily basis. Zoomed this one out to, looks like we have close to just over a year of data. This is a little bit older chart, but it's for the sake of example here. Again, this chart's real easy to read. It sold twice in whatever time frame we're looking at. So roughly, let's call it a year. And what's interesting to note is it sold here in the late part of January, and then it went several months, about 5 months through the end of May before it sold again, and the rank got close to about 4 million. So this particular book didn't drop as fast as some other books may, and you can see again roughly the same pattern holds true. It sold in May, went about 5-6 months, hasn't sold again, and we're sitting on a rank of roughly 4 million. One thing I want to draw, and I don't know that many people talk about this, is rank has a memory. So if a book has sold many times in the past, such as a textbook here, we see a bunch of sales kind of in the January timeframe, nothing in the off season. And again, this is probably a 3rd edition. My hunch is that a 4th or 5th or even 6th edition is out, and that's why the rank is so poor in the off season. And we see a bunch of sales in the fall semester, in the August timeframe, and then again, very few sales, if any, probably none during this timeframe. Now, what's interesting, we go to the slow mover. We looked at a rank of about 5 months, or a range of about 5 months, and the rank went from, again, it sold a copy, it went to about the 150,000 mark. 5 months later, we're sitting on close to 4 million sales rank. In this particular case, this is a book that sold several copies rather than just an individual copy. And so rank actually remembers that it sold a lot of copies in the past. And you can see again, the last time it sold was late March, and it went to early August. So again, 4.5 months of not selling a copy. And instead of the rank going to roughly 4 million like the last copy did, it only went to about 1.3 million. And the reason for that phenomenon, you'll see this often with textbooks. So when I see a textbook that's ranked 2 or 3 million, I get much more nervous than an average book that might just sell once or twice or 3 times a year with the same ranking. So a textbook remembered that it sold in the past. It doesn't know if it's likely to sell again, although it did sell about a half dozen copies in the fall semester. But that 4 or 5 month window only got to about 1.3 million. So that's something to keep in mind. Average rank is helpful when trying to solve this, but a better picture is to actually look at the chart and see what sort of a pattern you are looking at. So let's go back to the original question. Which books should I buy? And again, we're going to actually go back and look. These are just snapshots. So this 800,000 rank and this roughly 3 million rank, they don't tell us anything about what the book's done in the past and what's likely to happen in the future. They just tell us a snapshot in time. So let's pull up the charts for each of these. The first one, the 800,000 rank, we're looking at a time frame of about a year, and we can see a plethora of sales. This is probably one of those steady Eddy books. This is a great book to pick up. If you can snag it for $1 or $2 or $3, you could probably get close to $20, $25 prime or close to $10 merchant fulfilled. That's a great book. I'd buy that all day long. What about the 3 million rank? Again, we're going to look at a 1-year time frame. This is easier to calculate again. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 sales. 4 sales over the year, 1 every 3 months. We may get lucky and sell it again in a couple months, but this is going to fit into that long tail category. But again, if you happen to scan this book right after it sold, let's say mid-April, and you saw a rank of about 300,000, you'd see the same prices. A sales rank of 300,000, you'd be confused. So again, it's always best to look at a chart, but that's not always feasible, especially when you're in a competitive environment like a thrift store sale or a library sale. So you just have to rely on these snap decisions. The good news is the margins in books are fairly good, and by fairly good, I mean awesome, and you can afford to have a few duds. But the chart itself is what tells the whole story. Just want to give you a sneak peek at some of my own data. I share a lot of this on my blog. This is my own data. We're looking at about 25,000 books that have been on the market for a minimum of 6 months. Some of these books now have been on the market for well over a year, but at least 6 months of time. And you can see that books rank 0 to 10,000. I've sold nearly all of them, over 90%. And as you can see, as the rank goes up, so here on the right, we've got 5 million and higher books, so extremely long tail. I actually sell 20% of them after 6 months. Some of them, again, have been on the market for over a year, but I'm looking at 1 out of 5. So just by using the snap decision, and I track the rank at the moment I list the book. So some of these books are misleading. There's some books in here that are ranked 200,000 that average rank maybe is 3 or 4 million, but I just happened to pick it up right after it sold. But again, you can see it is a perfect stair-step pattern. The better the rank over on the left, 0 to 10,000, 100,000, the more of those books that have actually sold. And the more long tail we get, the fewer of those books that have sold. So you can make your own buying criteria based on that. I share a lot of that on my blog over at thebookflipper.com. You're welcome to come on over, join the discussion. There's comments on every blog post out there. I love to get involved in conversations and talk about stuff and learn from your experiences as well. So pop on over and check out some of the sales rank articles. I share my particular rules as far as if a book is ranked 3 million, what am I looking for as far as a rough list price? And again, feel free to chime in as well. So that's just a quick look, probably 15, 20 minutes or so. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful in understanding what sales rank means in your own business. Thanks for watching.